Welcome to the Bellydance Stories podcast, a multimedia production directed by Alexandra Molina and Valerie Molinari.
You will hear inspiring conversations and learn about the ways Bellydance has become a powerful channel of transformation in people's lives. Welcome to the Bellydance Stories podcast. I'm Alexandra.
And I am Valerie.
And today we have a very exciting guest. We're going to be talking about retrospection and retrospection of one's life, not just for an artist, but for a human, has incredible value. This heroic act to go backwards into oneself and into our minds and our emotions to see where we've been, it happens with everybody. And I think that this is something that everybody has a different intention for, but it is a heroic act to do so. And it starts to unfold stories where we can learn from and we can maybe share wisdom and hopefully pass it down. In that process, if we choose to allow ourselves to be open to learning how these steps have shaped our actions, our experiences, and our art, it becomes a collection of those rewarding messages and wisdom. And today, we have a very special guest that we're going to look back on the journey of Bozenka, a legendary dancer and teacher who began her roots in our Miami community and whose decades of dedication have educated countless of artists and continues to inspire dancers across the world. We know that you will be enchanted and inspired by her legacy, her path, and her bright future ahead. So welcome, Bozenka. We're so happy and honored that you accepted our invitation to be on our podcast.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you so much, both of you, for asking me to be here. I'm excited to share about my life and anything you want to ask me. I'm an open book. Thank you so much. This is really special.
We have an icebreaker question
Okay.
for you. So without giving us too much just yet, what is one fun fact about Bozenka's belly dance story that we should know before getting deeper into our conversation?
This one was hard, and I'm still in my mind thinking, like, what can I say? What can I say that's so fun fact? But I personally feel that there have been big things that I have dreamed up in my head since I was very young, and they happen. They happen. So I've been infatuated with an artist, I end up working with that person. I've pictured myself somewhere, I go there. So I don't know if that's a fun fact, but there are some people that I really admired musically, or dancers that I've admired and just never imagined that I would meet them or work with them or dance with them. And that's just something that I don't know if it's manifestation or just hard work, but it just continues to happen. I almost don't want to say it because I don't want to break the spell.
The pattern.
But it is something that I've thought about. Like, I dream about something or think about something, and without taking too many steps towards it, at least I feel that way, it just has happened.
You're a manifester. What's your zodiac sign?
Oh, no.
We're getting there.
So soon.
Fun fact.
So soon.
Yeah, exactly.
What's your numerology?
I don't know. I don't even know. Yeah,
Just
okay.
kidding.
Just for fun. I'm a Libra.
Oh, okay.
I'm air. And
Like my mother.
Yeah, I definitely need grounding. I need that around me. I need grounded people around me. But yes, I'm a Libra. I'm a dreamer.
Very cool.
For sure.
Very cool. Bozenka, that's your artistic name, right?
Yes,
So
yes.
take us back to the beginning. Who is Beatriz? Who was Bozenka? Tell us a little bit about it.
Okay, so growing up, by the way, I was named Bárbara Beatriz Marta.
Bárbara. Bárbara. Eso sí que I did not see that
Y eso
coming.
no lo usamos. I think that's like baptized name, nombre de bautizo. But once I came to America, and my birth certificate also says Beatriz Marta, pero el Bárbara como que lo...
You were born in Cuba.
Yes, I was born in Cuba. I was born in Havana. And we left Cuba. That's a really long story because people say we left, but everybody has an interesting story how they left. So I was born, Beatriz Marta. And ever since I was little, they called me Betty. So anybody that knows me very well knows me as Betty, or even in high school, because I went to school here. And I can say that I always loved the arts. I was just around it all the time. My father is a musician. My sister studied music. We were always going to the ballet, to the opera, because my father was playing. So I was just raised with it. Never expected to be an artist, but it's kind of something you just do. I think as a Cuban child, maybe even a girl, you're kind of expected to be in some kind of ballet or piano for sure. I took piano lessons, so it was always something that I did, but it definitely was not something that I thought or wanted to have as a career, because I also know the struggles of artists, so it's like, okay, that's real nice, but you have to be just very lucky and work hard and also have talent. So I was like, well, maybe I don't put that much pressure on myself, and I try to study something else. So from when I was little, I thought I wanted to be an astronaut. That was my first, dream. I told you I'm a dreamer. I wanted to be an astronaut. And unfortunately, my family just chuckled. They thought it was so cute. They didn't, like if my son tells me he wants to be an astronaut, I'm like, go for it. So I was just always involved in the arts. And that for me was just a way to express myself. It was just something I did, something my sisters and I did. We always dressed up and we always performed for my parents. It's something that so many children do. And in Cuba, I only went to kindergarten for about a month.
And then you moved to the U.S.
And then my mother, sisters, and I left. My father left first. And then we spent time in Mexico. And then we came to Miami. Like we can do another story about my immigration story because that's very interesting. And once I got here, it was just, public schools, public school education, and no money or the means to put us in like private lessons or anything like that. My sister was still playing the violin, and she would get lessons because she left Cuba when she was 11, and she was in a conservatory of music, so she continued her lessons, but I was too little. So we always did like dance in the public school programs. But from the time I was, let's say, 11, 12, then I was taking formal dance lessons. And I loved it. And I wouldn't say that I was the best. I just loved it. There was always somebody that was in the front or shining more. I wasn't, never thought that I was going to be a soloist or a star or anything like that. I just loved doing it. And also, I'm very, very tall.
Ooh, I was about to ask about that.
I'm tall. I'm like big bone, big hips, so I wasn't going to be a classical ballerina.
So were you taking like ballet, jazz?
No, because like very early on, my mom, not in a cruel way, but my mom was like, you don't have the
body
physique,
type, yeah.
the body, just, because now it can be turned into body shaming. But she was just very like, no tienes tipo de bailarina. My sister did. But so I took like modern, like what you call jazz back then. I don't hear many people talk about jazz anymore, but it was like modern dance, contemporary. I dabbled in a lot of things. If there was a flamenco class, I took it, Afro-Cuban, because I also wanted to explore my roots. I was born in Cuba and I have Spanish roots, right? And also Czech. Very little Czech, mostly Spanish and Cuban. And so I thought, I love, for example, flamenco music. And I can watch flamenco dancers and listen to flamenco for hours. But I don't feel flamenco, And so fast forward to the first belly dance class I ever took. And I really felt like, wait a minute, like this is my voice. Like this is how I really feel I can express myself, because there was enough aesthetic in it to have beautiful lines, but then there was all this movement in here that just felt so good to do. And maybe I didn't even verbalize it, but I just felt it. I felt, sounds corny, but I felt like I just had to remember the movements, not learn them. It was like, oh, this feels very good to me. And that was it. I was hooked. And I know that there are a lot of people like that. I have a lot of students that and you see it also sometimes. You see it in the students that just return. And they keep going to class because they say it's their therapy or whatever. And for me, it was a lot like that too.
How old were you when you took your first belly dance class?
I was 21.
You were 21.
21.
And I love how you said that it was something you just felt you needed to remember. Like it was some mystical, intuitive thing, maybe very subconscious, but that, you were remembering these moves that you felt sat with you very well, because you had already done all sorts of dancing.
Yeah, I had definitely explored my body and movement, and
you knew your body by that time.
Yes, probably not as much as I later learned with Oriental dance, but definitely I knew my body. I wasn't just like somebody that's never moved before, Yeah. So maybe there was a little bit of that too. Like, a lot of the ribcage circles reminded me of the modern dance and jazz movements, but just with a more beautiful flow. I think it also helps who you study with. And the fact that I landed into Tamalyn Dallal's studio there in the Mid-Eastern Dance Exchange, and she always incorporated, she's got also a softness about her. She always incorporated really beautiful music. So it wasn't just pop songs, because I think that would bore me. I think also the musician in me was really satisfied when she was playing music from all over the world, pretty much, because it was, she would explore a lot with music, which I do in my classes. And so that also hooked me, because we were always listening to this beautiful music, and I didn't quite know how to move to that. And she was teaching how to move to it, and she would always talk a little bit about the history, and I just found it fascinating. I was learning something, but also moving. I was a very hyper child. This I have to say. I was actually diagnosed, but it was before they used to say like ADHD. That they didn't have the label. It was more like, well, she's hyperactive. I really was. Era así, just like
you needed to move.
I don't know. I remember my mom saying, when you're older, you will, because
settle.
I think you will settle. I think she was the same. So she knew, she kind of identified with that. I couldn't sit still. So I also really loved to find something that I can put all that energy that I had to, and also pace myself, control myself, because I dance differently now than I used to. I have a bunch of clips that are not on YouTube because they're on DVDs.
Oh, I love that. I still have DVDs.
I have to. I don't know. I have to find a way to convert those and put them digitally, put them online. But yeah, you can see how I danced in my 20s and how I dance now. Very different in energy-wise.
Mm-hmm. I wanted to ask you, because you started as a young adult, being 21. Mm-hmm. How do you step in the professional career, right? When did you became, I'm going to stop doing this as a hobby. This is going to be a profession. This happens organically. How was that transition?
A little bit, like you said, organically. It wasn't that I said, I'm going to train to become a professional, to teach workshops around the world, because you have to think this was 1997. And it didn't work that way. It didn't really work that way. There were very few teachers that were teaching workshops, very few. You had to wait a whole year to take somebody's workshop that happened to come to Miami, usually brought by Tamalyn, later Johara, but it was not something that
Accessible, yeah.
it wasn't like that. So I took just a lot of classes, and all of a sudden, Tamalyn taught a teacher's training, like how to teach beginners. And I think it was because she was seeing that there was a wave of a lot of students. She probably had the foresight to see, I'm going to need help in the studio. So then she asked me if I wanted to teach some morning classes in the studio. So we used to have morning classes where it was a lot of, I think, hobbyists, mostly people that either were traveling or worked at night or were retired or their kids were in school, and that's when they could take the classes. So these morning classes really helped me with my confidence as a teacher, because I remember when she asked me to teach, I was like, I'm not ready. She always used to present opportunities for me before I realized I was ready to do them. Like also performing in a Cafe Tutu Tango in Miami. It was an art cafe where people would take their art and then you can purchase it. And so they also used to have flamenco dancers and belly dancers. In fact, that's where I saw Tamalyn for the first time.
I was going to ask, how did you land
5 years
in there?
before I started. So I went out to dinner to this Cafe Tutu Tango in Coconut Grove. And out comes, I hear the finger cymbals, and out comes, she was dressed in emerald green and just looked so beautiful. And I saw her moving and with her veils. Just when you see a belly dancer and you're enchanted. And I thought, wow, that's really beautiful. I would love to do that. I would love to try that. And I was in bad company. I had a bad date with me. We won't talk about him. He's a creep. But I said that to him. I was like, oh, I would love to do that. And he said, I can't even say that word, but that's for.
Oh my gosh.
And all of a sudden, I was just kind of like, what? Like, why would you? She was dancing so beautifully. Like, she wasn't doing.
Very elegant, I
oh my
imagine.
gosh,
Yeah.
Tamalyn, so elegant and gracious and just, it was just, I think it was so enchanting and beautiful. Like, he couldn't handle it.
How awful.
Awful, just
Yeah.
awful. So 5 years later,
Imagine if he wouldn't have said that. How much sooner would you have gone to that class?
probably.
Unfortunately. But
Unfortunately,
which could go
imagine
both
I
ways.
was
good or bad.
I was influenced. I was 16.
Okay.
So I was a bit like, what?
Yeah.
Like, why would you say that? And then I questioned myself. Yeah, I definitely did. And 5 years later, I was in much better company. And that person, I have to really thank him, because I said, I've always wanted to belly dance. Because we were talking about, what would you like to do? What's something that you really want to do? Because I was trying to rebuild myself. I was having really low self-esteem. I had been with this very bad person by my side, abused. And I came from a happy family. I was a happy young woman, and I was like bright Betty, at 16. And then I just fell into
Darkness.
so dark that they've made movies like that. Sometimes I see movies and I say, my God, that was what I was in. I was in such a dark relationship and so toxic, and I was young and I didn't know how to get out. Anyway, I got out, right?
The dreamer in you liked that question. What do you want to
Probably.
do? What do you want to do in
Yeah.
life? That's
Yeah.
wonderful when people ask at
Yeah.
whatever stage you are on in
Yeah.
life.
What do you want to do? What is it that you really love? And I thought, just music and dance. And there's this dance that I haven't tried that I want to try. And that man said, I know a place. I know a place on Lincoln Road. I'll take you there so you can register.
Oh my gosh, how wonderful.
Yes.
That's
yes,
beautiful.
Of
That's
course.
a beautiful love story.
Yes. Yes, it is. It is. And I went, oh my God, I got emotional. No.
That's
No,
okay. Plenty
no.
of times we've gotten
Oh,
there.
goodness.
We cry every podcast, so it's okay. It's normal.
Everyone,
here. Yeah.
almost every podcast. With Esmeralda, that was like,
Oh yeah.
But it's
That's
very,
terrible.
come on. With her, it's like impossible not to cry.
Yeah.
So I went there to the Mideastern Dance Exchange, and it was on Washington Avenue on the 5th floor. It's like really, the building was a bit old and stuff. And, you get in this rinky-dink elevator. And I know that a lot of people that have gone to that studio can relate. Like the building itself, you're like, am I gonna get mugged here? And then you get upstairs and you walk through that door and you hear the music, you see all the women dancing, and it was like, where am I? And I remember, because I walked in with this ex of mine, they said to him, oh, I'm sorry, but men can't come in unless they're taking the class. Like, unless you're taking the class. That was the rule, and I loved it.
I loved
it.
it.
It was like,
Wow.
it was very like, you're not allowed to come in unless you're taking the class. Then, of course, you're welcome.
Yeah, because on Lincoln Road and the beach, like, there's a lot of weirdos.
Oh my gosh.
Even at that time, they protected you.
I have so many stories about the Mideastern dance. Oh my God. About the people that would just walk in there off the street and stuff.
We're going to have to get you and Tamalyn in here one day.
Oh. We'll talk for 5 hours.
Imagine.
Definitely. Mideastern Dance Exchange stories. Wow. And she's a wonderful storyteller too. So I went in there, and who do I see sitting at the little desk? Was the dancer it was Tamalyn, but I didn't know. So I saw her, and all of a sudden I got like very excited and very gushy. And I was like, oh my God, did you dance at Tutu Tango? Were you dancing there like 5 years ago? And she probably gets that a lot. And she was just like, yes, can I have your name? Like, she's trying to sign me in. And I just want to have this moment like, this is meant to be, it's you. So I signed up for the beginners. My first day was September 10th. I never forget, September 10th, 1997.
1990. Oh, this is post Shakira.
This is pre
Shakira, pre-clone.
Pre-clone, pre-Shakira, like not pre-Shakira. Like she was
there, but she was
not
this,
in the States. She didn't break through to the American market. So she was like almost considered like an indie artist or rock and Latino or
Pies
something like that.
Descalzos came out in 92, I think, or 93. Yes.
I don't remember.
Yes.
I don't remember.
Big fan.
But anyway, that's like my real like beginning story. And I remember the first class, my mom went not to take the class. She just wanted to watch. And both of my sisters went, which is funny because one of them didn't really like want to join, but just went for the first class. And the other one was actually studying. She was getting her master's degree in FSU. And she just was visiting for the weekend. It was a Saturday class. So I asked if they could take the class. And, she said, well, normally we don't take like walk-ins, but, they can try it, see if they like it. So I had, when you think about it, I have my mother and my two sisters with me when I take my very, very first class. And I couldn't really look at myself in the mirror because I felt so like big and silly. Like I didn't know how to stand or hold my body. I was just like staring at the teacher the whole time, at Tamalyn. And little by little, you see that transformation only in 8 weeks, because it was an 8-week beginner's course that she slowly taught. She learned to teach. She like modeled the 8-week beginner's course after a language course, because she used to teach English to Spanish speakers. So she kind of did like step-by-step gradual kind of course. And then I think by the last class, there was a real beginning of a transformation in me where I could feel confident enough to look at myself in the mirror, to look at my lines, to learn by comparing, and also feel brave enough to go in that middle circle, in the middle of the circle and do my little moves there
By
'cause
yourself
by
at the end of
myself
the class.
at the end of the class. She
I
used to do that
remember
all
this,
the
yeah.
time. And it was terrifying. I used to get like nervous and sweaty because I knew it was coming, but I never left. Some people would leave early and not be able to do it. Like,
Oh,
my
that's a
meter's
shame.
running out, because we had to put,
Couldn't handle
coins
it.
in the meter, couldn't handle it. And so a lot of people couldn't handle it. And I said to myself, no, like, even if this is so embarrassing and I'm so uncomfortable, I'm going to sit with it. I'm going to sit with these uncomfortable feelings. And she said one time in class something that is so true. She said, at first, you have to just dance long enough, like more than 30 seconds. Give yourself more than 30 seconds that you could get over the initial fear. And then you start thinking about the movement. Then you can think clearly. So I always used to say, I'm going to give myself a minute.
That's a good advice also
Yeah.
for people that are
Yes.
starting to improvise and like try to put yourself beyond those 30 seconds.
And I want to just go back really quick about the 8 weeks and how Tamalyn taught the 8 weeks, because that's a testament to her legacy, and then that it passed down all the way to me and my teacher training, because my teacher, Portia, that's how we learn how to teach.
Oh, yes.
Through 8 to 10 week courses. And that was a big deal for many years and decades in Miami, that is where we got like the teacher training from Tamalyn, which came down to the rest of us. And I didn't know. What a fun fact.
Portia, sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah.
Portia was in my beginner's class.
Oh,
She was in my
well,
beginner's class.
that all trickled
And
down.
then she said to me, I'm going to open my own studio and I'm going to take this. And I was like, okay. I mean, it's not like patented or anything, and she took it. And imagine how many people she has taught with Tamalyn's 8-week beginner's course. And actually, I'm sorry, I interrupted
No,
you.
that's
Because I
perfect.
wanted to say,
Yeah.
first it was only an 8-week beginner's course. And then we found that a lot of people after the 8 weeks didn't know how to transition into intermediate, because after the 8 weeks, you were just thrown into intermediate. And then you had to take with Ilsa and Maria Jamal and Virginia, Samai.
Those are
Hanan.
some
Those are hard
hard
teachers.
teachers.
In a good way,
It was
but
so
That's not
intimidating.
intermediate. That's advanced.
And some of them were doing choreographies. And so we would lose a lot of people.
In the transition.
In that transition. So then together with Tamalyn, we thought about, she came up with level 1.5. And then we together designed,
Subdivided and
basically
continue.
level 1.5 was when you teach how to layer, because that's what was being lost. It's like, okay, all the basic moves, but we didn't have the level 1.5, which was, let's do that hip slide with a shimmy on top or whatever. So that's level 1.5, and then level 2.
And I love to, because we always knew, at least the first students of Portia, like we always knew that where this came from. Like we knew that there was a beginning of all of this system, and eventually throughout time it gets,
Modified
and
edited.
tweaked, but it's very important to know where it came from, because then you can honor that, and then more people will know, because nowadays schools don't teach that way, at least in Miami. That's been lost. Like now that I've been teaching on my own, people just are not interested in 8-10 week courses unless it's a choreography program. So for me, it's interesting. To know how it evolves. I will never forget that. And maybe one day it'll come back. Who knows? But it's the structures because it's like it's not like it is, you're taking it seriously, even though you're a hobbyist.
Mm-hmm.
And I love knowing where things come from, because then it leaves you, like retrospection, our main topic of the day, it leaves you to these messages and this future outlook to where you can possibly go. You know what I mean?
I do.
Okay.
I do. And I think that maybe Tamalyn came up with that eventually, because she was getting so many people that didn't have any previous Oriental dance background. They didn't have a way to find it online or take classes. Even instructional videos weren't so popular. So maybe she decided to come up with a system where she could quickly, because in 8 weeks, it's quick, but I guess it's not quick enough for nowadays. But in 8 weeks, it's quick enough to give somebody all those core movements, and then you can dance, then you can explore, then you can like just follow along. But I think she kind of needed that to get everyone organized. Like, look, this movement, so that you don't have to teach it in every class, let's say. But yeah, it's nice to hear that, and it's interesting to hear that now it's different, at least in Miami.
How it changes, yeah. I think also that generation of Tamalyn and some of her colleagues, like there was also like a boom of the belly dance classes. So they're also bringing people to a dance classroom that some of them come from other social cultural contexts, people that have no idea of how to dance. So they had to kind of like create a model.
Economics plays a big role.
Economics does, exactly.
Role. Economics and mostly economics played a big role throughout all of these years. And
how it continues evolving the pedagogy of the dance too.
Yes.
You know, based on the needs of the market. So I want to go back to your transition for student and professional. And I have...
Thank you for bringing us back.
I have this fun fact that I know about you that somebody in Puerto Rico told me.
Okay,
and they told me that Bozenka competed with only 3 years of dancing. Is that true? You did a professional competition with only... I want to mention this because the timeline of a dancer, it's very particular, individual, and personal. Yeah. Some people may take longer to achieve their goals. Some people have a talent that they can continue, they can take a class and they can progress very fast, faster than others. And share with us a little bit about that competition.
Yeah, because we were on that topic of like, how did I transition? And it was, again, very organically. I started teaching the morning classes. Then I would accept to do the dance in tutu tango, you know, the gig, when I didn't even have a costume. So then I would have to, I remember buying a costume for the first time, realizing, wow, this is an expensive hobby. You know, it was a hobby at the time, and I needed something nice, you know, and like this, like little by little. So it moved really, really quickly for me. And I was also taking a lot of classes. So after I finished the beginners, that we didn't have the 1.5, the level 1.5. And then I was just kind of taking a bunch of intermediate classes. And I was lucky to be in a studio where under one roof, you had many amazing dancers, many amazing teachers. And I was taking from each one of them because I was still trying to find my own style, I didn't have my own voice yet. And so, of course, in the beginning, you're so much like your teachers. You're trying to find like, where do I fit in with my dimensions, with the way I look, the way I feel. And so all of that has taken ages. So let's say like before really finding my voice and my personal style, I was trying on a lot of different styles and just doing the shows and going through the motions and performing in some productions. You know how much you excel when you have the opportunity to practice towards a show, learn choreographies, and perform them in a theater. It's like, it's like every experience I had, I felt like it
built you up, yeah.
It made me grow in leaps and bounds, you know? I also took every workshop that came to town. Of course, there weren't that many, but, you know, it was at least 2 big important ones every year. And I remember, you know, just working really hard. Tamalyn used to joke and say, I'm going to put a bed in the studio for Betty. It wasn't Bozenka yet. The other day, we found my first card. I'm going to ask my sister to send it to you guys so you can see. My first business card says Beatriz on it. It's so funny.
Wow, Bozenka was not born yet.
Bozenka was not born yet. And, but then I remember just not really feeling that I wanted to dance with that name. I think that was one of the first, like, looking into myself as an artist, like Beatrice in English just doesn't have the same ring as Beatriz. Beatriz is a strong name.
In Spanish.
In Spanish.
Yeah.
It's a classic name. It exists in many different languages. But I was just like, I also had the need not to be in the public eye with my real name, because I had to go a little bit not in hiding, but I didn't want to be found so easily or use my real name for safety reasons. And then we started searching for a name, and I just didn't identify with any other name other than a translation of my name in Czech. In my mom is half Czech, half Spanish. So Bozena is Beatriz. Bozena. Bozenka is Betty.
Wow.
So, I mean, when I teach,
Cool.
it just has a nice ring to it.
Yeah.
And when I told Tamalyn, I was like, I was, thinking about this name. It's a translation of my name, and she liked it. She's like, I think it has a really good sound to it.
Phonetics, yeah.
Yes,
It's your name.
It
It's
is
your
my name,
name.
so I'm not taking a Arabic name, because I always felt like I'm not Arabic. I don't look Arabic. I don't want to like overdo it and be like Aisha, or there's nothing. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I just didn't identify with it. So I wanted something that felt like it's still me. It's clearly not. It's clearly a Slavic name. I taught in Poland, and they thought it was really cute. They're like, Bozenka. Also, my family, sometimes they call me Bożka. My aunt, Bożka, which is really, it's kind of funny. So anyway, the name came. Tamalyn liked it. She approved. She's my mentor, So she said it has a Z. Names with a Z bring good fortune. I was like,
I didn't know that.
Let's do that. Think about Aziza.
Yeah.
Double Z.
Double fortune.
Yeah, but I love it because not many times we hear people using their artistic name based on their heritage. Especially because I feel like the older generation, it was very common and very trendy to get a Arabic name.
You had to.
You had to.
Actually,
exactly.
They used to name you in the clubs and in the restaurants. Like if you were like Cindy, they'd be like, no, we cannot introduce Cindy. You have to. So they would name you. A lot of the musicians would name dancers
To appeal into the fantasy that they were trying to.
Yes, yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So then,
So you pick your name. You picked it. Yes.
yes, I chose that name, and it worked. And a lot of people mispronounce it. They'll say like Bozenka, but I just correct them. And I think, or in Spain, the first time I went to Spain, they were saying Bozenka, because they, la zeta.
Zeta.
And Bozenka.
And when it comes to technique, you say that when you start kind of like creating that personal branding for you, you already had a name, that your physique was different. And how about your technique? How do you got there? Because when I think about Bozenka, first thing that comes to my mind is this super elegant gold kind of like energy dancer. That's what and now that you are actually in Greece, I'm like, oh my God, that's perfect for her. That's where I place her. But technically, like, how did you saw yourself? I'm like, okay, I am this type of dancer, this type of artist, and I want to make people feel this way.
So my hips have always been very prominent in comparison to my waist, like small waist, big hips. That's my body. I was kind of like I had a complex about it when I was younger because I grew up around a lot of, I went to school, like the majority of the girls had different body types and their bodies were celebrated. And I had more like Latina body. And it was kind of like, I always got negative, what I felt was negative attention, like catcalls and stuff, always about, you know, a big behind or big hips or, yeah, it's hard. Like, you know, now it's celebrated and there's the BBLs and all
Now
that
people
stuff. But
go
for a
for
long time,
surgery to get them like.
I know. But for a long time, that was not like I couldn't even find jeans that fit me well, you know, because if they fit my hips, then the waist was big, and it's always been, you know, a thing. And finally, I felt like I have the right equipment here for, you know, like for really strong, you know, hip work. Like drum solos for a long time. That's all people would ask me to do and teach. And I was like, I need to get out of this box. Because it was like every shimmy in the book, you know, my DVD or drum solo. And after a while, I was like, I'm tired. Like, I want to dance slow too. I have other things to give. I've never liked being put in a box. Okay, now I can accept it. But earlier, I was like, I'm a versatile dancer. So many times if I did something kind of obscure where I wanted to do it just a little bit like maybe not even fusion, but more Mediterranean and maybe dress differently. I remember there was a time where people were like, is that what you're doing now? Are you tribal? Are you tribal? And I was like, no, this is just like a dance. Like I'm expressing myself like this. This is just one little thing that I like to do. This is not me.
The labeling was intense.
Labeling. I don't like that. But you
like
know,
that either,
but it's okay. You know, I understand now that there is undeniably a thing that I do that I feel like I'm not doing anything. It's just me. That's just the way I dance. But yes, it is soft. It's smooth. I think it's just because sometimes I don't want to, you know, like go so hard, you know? And even when I go hard, I feel like there's a softness to it. So it's what I do. I have to say, again, trying to find myself, one of my big influences in the beginning was Beata Cifuentes. Because I saw a tall blonde. And I was like, hey. Because I am blonde, but for many, many years, I dye my hair darker, you know, experiment with hair colors, maybe, you know, to appeal to that more exotic thing, you know. And I remember, you know, with Beata, I was like, wow, she's really, like, I just identified because she had a lot of precision in her hip work, but she was also like a ice queen or something, you know, it was just, wow. You know, I was able to like revisit years later and see that my style had evolved from that, but she was an inspiration. She was definitely a big, as far as my image, like identifying with someone that was doing Oriental dance. But, you know, back to this competition, it was called Miss America of the Bellydance, which is such a funny name. And it was in San Francisco. And I think it was the competition in the States at the time. And Tamalyn had won. And Amar Gamal had won. And Amar is a dancer. Actually, now she's Amar Garcia, right? And she also won that competition. And it all started with a girls' trip because Tamalyn had to go to San Francisco to teach at this event. Like the Miss America of the Bellydance was also like an event that had workshops and such. So she was going to go teach. And then Sandra from Puerto Rico.
My teacher.
Barreras, your teacher.
My teacher, Zaina. That's how I know the information.
Zaina.
It's all connected somehow.
It's all, yeah.
Wow. So Sandra, Zaina knew Tamalyn. They knew each other. And another dancer by the name of Patricia. I don't think she's dancing anymore. We're still in touch, but she's not dancing anymore. So they were all going to go to compete. Well, Patricia wasn't competing. Patricia wanted just to go for the trip and just to have fun and take the workshops. But Sandra was competing. And then Tamalyn, in her way, in her very soft way, because I think she knew that if she was like, you need to compete, I wouldn't have done it. But in her very soft way, like she always introduced everything, the teaching, the gigging, everything. She said, I think you could do this competition. I think you're ready to compete. And I had the face you have, Valerie. I was like, no. But I felt that way about everything all the time. I even felt that way when you asked me to dance in the love affair. I was like, can I do this? Should I do this? I don't know why. I don't want to stop with me. Anyway, but it was like, back then it was like terror. I was like, compete? No. I don't like competitions because I like winning.
And you're like, if I don't win, I'm going to be upset.
It's like if you're in it, I know that everybody says like, oh, you learn so much from the experience. Of course you do. But who doesn't want to win? Like, come on. Like if you're in it, the icing on the cake is to win it, And that gave me a lot of stress. And there was a lot of drama too, because it was like, you're competing? Like you've only been dancing like yesterday. You're a baby dancer. Like there was some
Tension.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Just like cattiness, high school behavior, stuff that I hadn't experienced since high school. And I was like, oh no, this is like being in high school all over again. And that's when it stopped being fun, because I really enjoyed all of that student phase. Like I grew up a little bit too fast is what I was feeling. I was like, no, like I don't want to grow up fast. Like
into that world, you mean?
Yeah,
yes,
this is my childhood. My belly dance childhood is like being like all stars in my eyes and being in love with all of my teachers and learning things every day and having so much fun. I still had a job, by the way. I was still going to school. This was just something I did on the side because I had all the time in the world and I was young and you don't get tired. You don't need to rest. So I was studying full-time, working full-time, and dancing part-time. And yeah, Tamalyn just kind of planted that little seed like she does. I learned to do that now with my students. I'm like, nudge, nudge. You have to nudge some dancers sometimes.
And did you prepare for the competition or did you just improvising?
No, I prepared.
You prepare.
Oh my gosh, of course. Oh, I get goosebumps. It was so many years ago. 2000, in the year 2000. So I prepared. I danced a solo by one of my favorite composers, like contemporary composers, is Syed Balaha.
Brazilian, I love it. Yeah.
I know. Just amazing. And my piece was actually kind of slow, if you think about it. It was kind of slow. And I remember I wanted a very, very special costume. So I asked Fernando Corona, a designer, Argentinian designer, that at the time was the designer. Because he's a couture designer and he makes like wedding gowns, and then got into making belly dance costumes and just made everything by hand. I have all of his costumes that I bought. I have them. I maybe don't wear them, but I have the brown belt of all of them because they're like works of art.
Do you have that one that you competed in still?
Oh, yes, great. I do. And in one belly dance bazaar, I got rid of the skirt and then I regretted it. And then I went to Denise Marino's house, the photographer, and it was hanging in a rack. And I was like, oh, and she said, don't you remember? I bought this from you. And I'm like, I'll buy it back.
Oh my God.
So now I have it.
So special.
So now I have it.
And
she didn't sell it to me. She was like, just take it back, I bought something else from her, but it was, because I regret selling my first costume. To those of you that are listening, don't sell your very first costume. Like my amateur costume, my very first costume, I sold it. And that costume, my mom used to joke and say, ese traje baila solo. Like that costume can dance on its own because I wore it out. I wore it to everything. It's the only nice costume I had. It was turquoise bedla with a very nice skirt. And I had very short hair. When I started belly dancing, I had long hair. And because I was going through a change in my life, I cut it. I got a pixie cut.
I remember you saying that in an old interview, and I think it was a belly dance meetup that they had invited you to speak. And I was a baby belly dancer. And I kept thinking of that image. I'm like, Bozenka with a pixie cut.
Oh,
Wasn't
I
it
love
black?
this
Was it
pictures
dark
of
or
you were
something?
stunning. She looked stunning.
I loved it.
When I had the pixie cut, it was not dark, but if you're referring to a photograph, like I did wear I used to wear
might have
wigs.
mixed the.
I wore lots of wigs too. in
Irene
fall.
was another one
Okay.
with like a short
Yes,
hair.
we had 3 dancers in the troupe that had pixie cuts, and we were all tall, and it was like we were the short-haired dancers. But I grew it out because it's so nice. It's so nice to dance with hair, you know. And I found myself putting like wigs and falls, and I was like, I'm just gonna grow out my own hair. But anyway, the competition, by the
And
way,
when did they say the results?
Going back
were
to
you actually like expecting to be the first place? Like how did
No.
that make you feel after?
Wait, were you first place?
I was.
Yes, that's the part of the story.
She jumped the gun. Wake up the baby.
By the way, we haven't
That's
even
funny.
mentioned her, and I feel like it's very important.
Oh,
But
She
yes,
will be mentioned at
yeah,
the end.
Yeah, she's just amazing. But yeah, I didn't expect to win. Of course, I had high hopes. You know what was really nice was preparing for it. Not just the dance. Like the dance, I knew what I was going to do and I had the costume. It was preparing here and just like it was so funny. I felt like Tamalyn somehow was my Yoda or something because
she is
we
such a
went-
patient woman.
and she has great advice and it's like life experience. You cannot fake that. Life experience, and she had a lot of experience because she went before me, So we were in San Francisco, and by the way, that was my first adult girl trip. So that was also a really important experience for me because I hadn't traveled by myself just with a group of women ever. I didn't go away to college. I did school here in Miami. I was like very close to my family. And I remember having feelings of displacement. Like when I was there, I was homesick and I was like a little girl. I would call home and my voice would crack and I was all very so sensitive. Oh, I had very thin skin. I had to learn to develop thick skin later, performing for parties and audiences and restaurants and all that you have to develop later. But I was just like very sensitive, very raw. Well, I've always been a very sensitive person. So, that came later. But anyway, I remember Tamalyn, us going hiking and me being, from Cuba and raised here, I hadn't seen these big mountains by the sea before. And that whole coast of California is really breathtaking. It's just, you see the Pacific and you see I've always been an outside person, outdoors, kind of get away from that sometimes living in Miami and doing the day-to-day and rushing and stuff. But every time I could get to nature, and I think most people are like that, you just, like, you can breathe, you can just be. And she took me by the water and we were looking out there at the beautiful ocean. And then she just said to me, she said, try to think about this when you're dancing. Try to think about this moment when you're dancing tomorrow.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was like, okay.
Total, what is it? Not Cobra Kai. What's the other one? Miyagi-Do.
That's why.
Totally.
Yeah, she was my Mr. Miyagi. And it was nice. It was the first time somebody told me, since my father taught me like how to meditate and how to breathe, but it was the first time somebody told me, apply this piece, this wonder, this majestic thing that you're looking at and hold that inside she didn't say it in those words. It was just very subtle, very Tamalyn. She has a beautiful way of just like she doesn't impose her philosophy on anyone. Like it was just very subtle, but I took it and I was like, okay. And I can't tell you that that's what I was thinking on stage, but I did think about that before dancing. And I was like, I'm just going to do my thing and not try to look at all the people and all the judges and not get like so wound up. And there was a lot of drama happening in this competition. As I think I've competed twice, and twice there has been some kind of silly drama coming from the outside, like telling you, like, why are you competing? You don't need, what are you trying to prove? The first time it was, why are you doing this? You've only been dancing this long. You're not ready. Like, kind of like trying to
like
put fear in me or tell me like you're not doing the right thing, especially when my teacher told me like, I think you should do this. It'll really be good for you. She didn't say you're going to win, but she's like, you're ready to have this experience. Besides, that was another thing she said. We're going on a trip. We're going to go Route 66. Like, that's not it. That's not the only reason you're going to San Francisco. We're going on a girls' trip. But this is like something on the side and you should do it. And I had her encouragement and I had the encouragement from my family, and that's all I needed. And yes, when I won, I was shocked, but it was kind of like a confirmation, like, I guess I'm doing something right and
you're ready.
And I'm good. I wasn't like I'm the best, but it definitely boosted my confidence. And then what happened, because I won, it was like that kind of put in motion I got a lot of attention, and I got some invitations to teach, and it was like, oh, okay, just like it is nowadays. But the thing is that there's so much that now it's hard to focus exactly on which competition you're looking at. But because there was only that one, then it was like, wow, she won that.
Yeah, I guess that also because there were not that many, it was more like a convocatoria. So all the professionals that were into a certain level will show up.
Right.
Which means it's a hardcore competition.
It was a hardcore
You know what I'm saying?
competition.
And like it really projects your name as a dancer in a different sphere, like.
But what's also, I think, most important and interesting is because of what was surrounding the event of the competition. Not that that was the center of attention of the trip, like you were mentioning, but the preparation that involved, and to be very mindful of what's happening before and during is probably what set you up for success. Because I think that we get too, and it's not something new that I'm saying, but we get very much into that destination and that journey, to be very cliche here, that journey is what set you up for that success. And then afterwards, maybe the reflection or the rest of the trip that you had. But if you're going into something so, like, people put it up on a pedestal, a big competition like that, you're gonna want to prepare not just in that technique and in the actual like execution of the dance, but also yourself as a person, and then surround yourself with something else that might help you balance out those and not distract you from the fears and those questions that what people call insecurities and self-sabotage, sabotaging questions. So I think that was what a spectacular story to learn from your first competition. It wasn't just you were going there. You had all of these other things happening in the story, that the main character kind of gets bombarded with, and you win. And then what happens? Where'd you go? You went on a drive.